Something happened to me, and to this day I can't understand it. My name is Daniel Hewitt. I'm 41 years old. I'm a detective with the civil police in a rural county in southern Oregon. One of those places where everyone knows each other, where crimes are bar fights and tractor thefts. Nothing that keeps me up at night. Or at least, it didn't. It all started 3 months ago. It was a Tuesday. I was alone at the police station, finishing reports. The kind of shift you do on autopilot, reheated coffee, flickering fluorescent lights, a heavy silence broken only by the hum of the old air conditioner. I'd already closed 2 cases that week. Nothing serious. I was tired, but it was the usual tiredness, the kind you take home and forget in the shower. Then the phone rang. 3:17 in the morning. I looked at the screen. Unknown number. I answered without thinking much. Police station, Detective Hewitt. Silence on the other end. But it wasn't an empty silence. It was dense, as if someone were holding their breath right next to the phone. "Hello?" I insisted, and then I heard it. A muffled voice, somewhat distorted, as if coming from afar. "County Route 18, kilometer 44. You need to come now." The call dropped. I stared at the phone for a few seconds. I thought about ignoring it. A prank call, I thought. But something about the tone of that voice, I don't know. It sounded urgent and tired, as if the person had called many times before. I grabbed the car keys and left. County Route 18 cuts through an isolated rural area. Abandoned wheat fields on both sides. A few houses miles away. No streetlights, only the moon and the car's headlights. As I drove, a low fog began to rise from the asphalt. It wasn't normal for this time of year, but it wasn't impossible either. I arrived at kilometer 44. Here you go. A body, in the middle of the road. I stopped the vehicle about 20 meters before and turned on the emergency lights. The red and blue lights flashed slowly, cutting through the fog. I grabbed my flashlight and got out. The air was freezing. I could see my own breath. I approached slowly. It was a man. He looked about 30 years old. Dark jeans, a white shirt stained with blood. He was facing away, his arms outstretched as if he had tried to protect himself from something. There were no cars nearby, no skid marks, nothing. I knelt beside him. I placed 2 fingers on his neck. No pulse. He had been dead for a short time. The body was still warm. That's when I realized his eyes were open and they stared at me. Not vaguely, like with corpses. No. He was looking directly at me, as if he recognized me, as if he had been waiting for me. I felt a chill run down my spine. "Who are you?" I murmured, more to myself than to him. The wind blew. The mist moved around the body, and I swore that I heard something. A whisper. Faint. Almost imperceptible. "You know." I got up quickly. I looked around. Nothing. Nobody. Just the road, the fog, and that body staring at me as if it held a secret I should remember. I went back to the patrol car and called headquarters. I requested a forensics team, a hearse, and area isolation. Standard procedure. But while I waited, I couldn't stop looking at him. That look, as if he knew something about me that I myself had forgotten. The forensics team arrived. They photographed everything. They collected the body. I gave my statement. Anonymous call. Unidentified victim. No witnesses. No vehicle involved. Case open. Routine. I returned to the police station as the sun was rising. I drank more coffee. I tried to sleep a little in the break room. I couldn't. That look stayed with me. Fixed. Accusatory. But I've been a police officer for 18 years. I've seen worse. At least that's what I told myself. I spent the next day reviewing the case. No fingerprints in the files. No relatives looking for missing persons. The man simply didn't exist. as if he had only shown up there to die. I filed it away mentally. Probably a homeless person, a vagrant. He was going to become just another forgotten John Doe. I was wrong. The following morning, at exactly 3:17 a.m., the phone rang again. Same time, same unknown number. Wait. Police station, Detective Hewitt. Silence. That restrained breath. And then the voice. County Route 18, kilometer 44. You need to come now. My stomach churned. Who are you? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The call dropped. I kept staring at my phone. I thought about ignoring it. I thought about transferring to another unit. But something inside me, maybe police instinct, maybe something else, compelled me to go. I got in the car. Same road, same fog, same feeling of being watched. I arrived at kilometer 44. And there it was, another body. But he wasn't the same man as yesterday. This time it was a woman, older, maybe 50 years old. Torn floral dress, barefoot. She was lying face down on the asphalt. I approached no signs slowly. Of a struggle, my heart no beating car, faster than it should. Nothing. I turned the body carefully. Her eyes were open, and they stared at me, exactly the same way, as if he knew me, as if he had been waiting. I stepped back, tripping over my own boots. "What the hell is this?" I whispered. The wind blew again, and I heard it, clearer this time. "You know what you did." I called the call center. Same routine. Forensics. Coroner's van. But this time, isolation. When Sergeant Miller arrived, I asked, "Did you receive any calls about this?" He frowned. "What call? You were the one who reported it." "No, someone called me first. Anonymous." Miller looked at me with that expression I know so well, concern disguised as skepticism. "Are you sleeping well, Hewitt?" I didn't answer. Over the next few days, I tried to investigate. I reviewed the police station's phone records. The call didn't exist. There was no entry in the system. No number was recorded. But every morning, at 3:17 a.m., the phone would ring, and I would answer, "Yes." And I found it. Always a different body. A black man in a suit, a teenager in a sweatshirt, a pregnant woman, an elderly man with a walker, but always in the same place, always at the same time, always with eyes open, always staring at me. I started writing everything down in a personal notebook. Details that the forensic experts didn't see. The exact position of my arms, the air temperature, the smell of wet earth that was always present, even when it wasn't raining. And one thing became impossible to ignore. Nobody at the police station knew about the calls. Nobody received the reports I sent. It was as if it was only happening to me. I tried not to answer one night. The phone rang 47 times. When I finally got there, the body was closer to the police station, about 3 kilometers less down the road, as if he had been waiting for me. And then I realized the truth that chilled me to the bone. The more I resisted, the closer they came. I stopped resisting. Every morning, at 3:17 a.m., I was already awake, sitting in the police station, staring at my phone, waiting, because it was easier than fighting something I didn't understand. And every morning, without fail, he played. I started arriving at the road Sometimes earlier. I was already there at 3 a.m., parked on the shoulder, headlights off, watching kilometer 44 through the fogged-up window, as if I could catch the exact moment the bodies appeared. But I never saw anything. I'd blink, and they were already there. On the 12th night, something changed. The body was that of a young man, maybe 25 years old, black leather jacket, worn-out sneakers, unshaven. He was sitting, not lying down like the others. Sitting in the middle of the track, his back to me, head down, shoulders slumped. I got out of the car slowly. "Hey, are you okay?" No response. I approached. The fog was thicker than usual. I could barely see the yellow line on the asphalt. I touched his shoulder. The body fell to the side, dead, obviously dead. But the face, I recognized that face. Not personally, but I had seen it. Somewhere, recently. I ran back to the patrol car and grabbed my tablet. I accessed the police station's database. Missing persons, closed cases, unidentified victims, and I found it. He had disappeared 3 years ago. Name, Marcus Treadwell. Last seen at a gas station on County Route 18. His car was found abandoned days later on the side of the road. No signs of struggle, no body, case filed as a voluntary disappearance. But now he was here, looking at me, like everyone else. I returned to my body. I knelt beside him. I looked into his empty eyes, trying to understand what the hell was happening. And then I saw, in his eyes, in the reflection of my flashlight, it wasn't just recognition, it was an accusation, as if he knew anything, as if they all knew. I started to tremble, not from the cold, from something else, something I didn't want to name. I went back to the police station and spent the entire night reviewing old cases, people missing in the region, unsolved deaths, hit-and-run accidents with no one to blame. There was more than I imagined. 12 cases in the last 10 years, all on County Route 18, all between kilometers 40 and 50, all closed due to lack of evidence. And the more I read, the more a horrible feeling grew in my chest. I knew that road. Not just because of the calls, I've always known, because I used to pass by there, every week, for years, coming home after night shifts, driving tired, with heavy eyes, the radio playing softly, the deserted road unfolding ahead like an endless line. And suddenly, a memory surfaced, fragmented, distant. One night, rain, headlights, someone on the side of the road, raising their arm, asking for a ride. Had I stopped? No. I didn't have any, or did it? I couldn't remember very well. I closed my eyes, trying to force my memory, but it was like trying to hold back water. It slipped through my fingers. The phone rang. I looked at the clock. 3:17 a.m. I answered, but this time I didn't wait for a voice to speak. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. Silence. And then, for the first time, the voice responded differently. "To remember." The call dropped. I sat there in the darkness of the police station, the phone still in my hand, my heart pounding in my chest. To remember. If this made you uncomfortable, wait for the next chapter. I spent the next few days trying not to think. I focused on work, simple cases, thefts, disturbance complaints, anything that would keep me away from that road during the day. But night always came, and with it came the certainty. At 3:17 a.m., the phone would ring. I tried not to go to the police station. I went home. I turned off my cell phone. I disconnected the landline. I locked the door. I closed the curtains. I lay down on the bed fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. The silence was suffocating. I looked at the digital clock on the nightstand. 3:16 a.m. My heart started racing. 3:17. Nothing. I took a deep breath. Maybe it was over. Maybe it was just, I don't know. Stress, a breakdown, some psychological mess that would pass. Then I heard it, knocking on the door. 3 knocks. I got out of bed, slow, my blood running cold deliberate in my veins. Who is it? No response. 3 more knocks. I approached the door, my hand trembling. I looked through the peephole. Nobody. But the beating continued, now louder, more insistent. I opened the door suddenly, gun already in hand. The street was empty. Only the yellowish light from the lamp posts, the cold wind rustling the trees. And then my cell phone rang, even when switched off. The screen lit up by itself. Unknown number. I answered with a trembling hand. What do you want? The voice, calm and inevitable. County Route 18, kilometer 44. You need to come now. I'm not going, I shouted. Do you hear me? I'm not going. Silence. And then, it needs. The call dropped. I stood there, barefoot on the doorstep, the gun dangling from my hand, feeling the chill of the early morning air pierce through me. I knew there was no point in resisting. I put on my keys. I left. As I was driving, I noticed something strange. The road was different, darker, the fog denser, as if the world was shrinking around me. There was only the road, the headlights, and that growing feeling that I was being guided. I arrived at kilometer 44. The body was there, but this time, closer, not in the middle of the road, on the shoulder, just a few meters from the police car. Gray hair. She was a woman, simple clothes, hands clasped over her chest as if she had been dressed for a funeral. I approached slowly. Her eyes were open, always open, but this time, when I knelt down beside it, I saw something that made me gag. She was holding something, a folded piece of paper, between stiff fingers. With a trembling hand, I picked up the paper and opened it. It was handwritten, cursive script. You know what you did. Faded blue ink. I dropped the paper, as if it were burning. I looked around. Nobody, nothing, just the wind, the fog, and that body staring at me. I didn't do anything, I yelled into the empty space. Can you hear me? I didn't do anything. But my own voice sounded false, hollow, because deep down, a part of me, small, buried, suffocated, knew that I was lying. I went back to the patrol car and called headquarters. I reported as usual, but this time, when Sergeant Miller arrived, he looked at me differently. Hewitt, are you okay? Why does everyone ask me that? I replied, my voice coming out harsher than I intended. Because you look awful. Deep dark circles under your eyes, trembling hands. And this is already the 15th body you've encountered on this damn road in 3 weeks. I blinked. 15th? Miller frowned. Yeah, you're not counting. I had counted. There were 13. But he said 15. Miller, I began, my voice faltering. You answer these calls too? He looked at me, confused. What calls? You're the one reporting, Hewitt. Always you. I felt the ground disappear from beneath my feet. If he wasn't receiving the calls, if nobody was receiving them, so who was calling? And why only for me? I asked for a week off. Miller didn't argue. I spent the first 2 days locked in my house, curtains closed, drinking cold coffee and trying to convince myself that everything had a rational explanation. Post-traumatic stress, sleep deprivation, some neurological disorder that I hadn't yet diagnosed. But every morning, at 3:17 a.m., my cell phone would ring. I wasn't answering. And every night, the call would drop after 3 rings. On the 3rd day, something changed. The phone didn't ring at 3:17 a.m. It rang at 2:43 a.m., then at 2:19 a.m., then at 1:55 a.m., as if it were getting closer, becoming more frequent, more insistent. On my 5th night off, I gave in. Wait. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice hoarse with exhaustion. Silence. But it wasn't empty. It was inhabited, as if someone were breathing very close to the headphones. And then, for the first time, I heard something different. It wasn't the usual robotic voice. It was a whisper. Low. Almost inaudible. Kilometer 44, he's waiting. The call dropped. I kept staring at my phone. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped it. He, not the body, not the victim. He, as if it were a specific person. I quickly got dressed and drove to the road. Not because I wanted to, but because at that point, I needed to know. The fog was thicker than ever. The headlights barely cut 3 meters ahead, unfolding in a never-ending loop. I drove slowly, my heart pounding, my hands gripping the steering wheel. I arrived at kilometer 44. There was a body. This time, he was lying on his side, facing the road, as if he had tried to crawl somewhere before giving up. I got out of the car. The air was freezing. I could see my breath forming dense clouds in front of my face. I approached. He was a man. Faded denim jacket, cargo pants stained with dirt, worn-out boots, messy brown hair, around 30 years old. I turned the body carefully, and I stopped. I recognized that face, not photos, not files. I had seen this man, in person, but where? I closed my eyes, trying to force my memory, and then it came, fragmented, distorted. One night, heavy rain, deserted road, headlights reflecting on the wet asphalt. I was returning from a shift, tired, my eyes burning. The road blending with my sleep. And then I saw someone, on the side of the road, arm raised, hitchhiking. I drove straight past. I didn't stop for strangers. I never stopped. But had it stopped? My memory was confused, blurred. I shook my head, pushing the thoughts away. It didn't matter. I had to finish the protocol. I looked for identification in his pockets. Swim jacket, but in the inside
Nothing
pocket
in his pants.
pressed against my chest. I found something. A ticket, folded, yellowed with age. I opened it carefully. It was handwritten. Hasty handwriting, almost illegible. You know what you did. My stomach churned. It was the same phrase as on the previous paper. But that wasn't what chilled me to the bone. It was the handwriting. I recognized those lyrics. I turned the paper over. On the back, there was a signature. I dropped the paper. Daniel Hewitt. That wasn't possible. I had never written that before. I had never seen that man before. I had never... But my hand was trembling, and my breathing was rapid. And some part of me, buried deep, suffocated by years of denial, knew I was lying. I looked at the body again. His eyes were open, and this time, I understood what they were saying. You were there. You saw. You left. I stepped back, tripping over my own boots. I fell to my knees on the cold asphalt. I didn't know. I whispered, my voice breaking. The wind blew. The fog shifted. And I swore I heard a voice. Low, close. Now you know. I didn't call the forensics team this time. I stayed there, kneeling on the asphalt, looking at that body, at that note with my own handwriting, trying to piece together a memory I didn't want to have. The sun rose. The fog slowly dissipated, and when I looked again, the body had disappeared. There was no blood, no marks, nothing. Just the cold asphalt and the wind blowing through the abandoned wheat fields. I was alone. I picked the note up from the floor. It was still there. Real, tangible. My handwriting, my name. I put it in my pocket and went back home. Over the next few days, I tried to piece it together. I reviewed my own records, logbooks, old reports. I looked for dates, anything that would place me on that road years ago. And I found something. 9 years ago, I had just been promoted to detective. I was working double shifts. I would drive home in the early hours of the morning via County Route 18 because it was the fastest way. I wrote down the dates. I cross-referenced them with the incident reports from that time, and then I saw October 23rd, a hit-and-run, victim unidentified, body found at kilometer 44 of County Route 18. Driver fled the scene. Car never found. Case closed due to lack of evidence. My stomach churned. I had worked on that case, not as the lead investigator, but as support. I remember going to the scene. I remember the body covered with a white sheet. I remember the rain falling. I remember thinking, poor guy, who does something like that and gets away with it? But I couldn't remember the face, because I hadn't looked. I went to the police station's archives. I looked for the case. Folder 14 to 2637. I picked it up and took it home. Inside, there were photos, reports, testimonies. I opened the photos with trembling hands. It was him, the man in the denim jacket, the one holding the note with my signature. Name, Ethan Cole. He was 28 years old. He worked as a mechanic in a neighboring town. He was returning from a party. His car was found abandoned 3 kilometers away, the keys still in the ignition. The official theory: he drank too much, got out of the car, tried to walk, and was run over. But something didn't add up. I turned the page. There was a handwritten note from another detective, brief, scribbled in the margin. Skid marks found 50 meters before the body, vehicle unknown. I closed my eyes. Skid marks. Someone had seen him, had tried to stop him, but didn't stop him. Or he stopped, and then ran away. I got up. I walked around the room. I tried to breathe. Memories began to return. Not all at once, but in flashes, distorted fragments of a night I had buried too deep. I was coming back from a shift, tired, exhausted. My eyes were heavy. Rain was hitting the windshield. The wipers were working at full speed. And then, a figure, on the side of the road, arm raised. I blinked. No, it was nothing. Just tiredness, just shadows, just an impact. Seco. I looked in the rearview mirror. The car swayed. There was something on the ground. Free. Somebody. I stopped. I got out of the car. The rain soaked me immediately. I walked back. It was a man, lying on his side, blood trickling from his mouth, eyes half open. He saw me. He tried to speak, but I didn't hear, because all I could think about was my career, my life, my promotion. I went back to the car. I turned on the ignition, and I fell to my knees in the room. My hands covered in my head like shattering glass. My body trembling uncontrollably. I had killed Ethan Cole, and I had run away. And for 9 years, I forgot. No, worse than that. I had convinced myself that it hadn't happened, that it was just an animal, that I had imagined it, that it was nothing. But he remembered. They all remembered. I spent 3 days locked in my house, without eating, just sitting on the living room floor, without sleeping properly, looking at that picture of Ethan Cole, trying to come to terms with what I had done. I was a murderer. It didn't matter that it had been an accident. It didn't matter that I was tired. I had hit him. I had seen him breathing, and I had run away. And for 9 years, I pretended that nothing had happened. I built a career on that silence. I became a detective. I investigated crimes. I arrested people. I judged the guilty, while the biggest culprit was staring back at me in the mirror every morning. On the 3rd night, the phone rang, 3:17. I looked at the screen. Unknown number. Wait. I know, he said, his voice hoarse. I know what I did. I remember now. Silence on the other end, and then the voice, clearer than ever. Then come. The call dropped. I didn't hesitate. I got dressed. I grabbed the keys. I left. The road was different. The sky was clear, full of stars. The fog had lifted. The full moon illuminated the surrounding fields. Everything seemed peaceful. I arrived at kilometer 44. There was a body in the middle of the road. But this time, when I got out of the car, he moved. I froze it. The body was breathing. I approached slowly, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear the blood in my ears. It was a man, lying on his side, dark jacket, jeans, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. I knelt beside him. Hey, can you hear me? He opened his eyes, and he stared at me. Era Ethan Cole. The same face from the photo, the same one I had seen that night, the same one I had left to die. My whole body started shaking. Ethan, He tried to speak, His voice came out weak, muffled, but I heard every word. "You were driving." Tears burned my eyes. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." With disappointment, he looked at me, not angrily. Then he stopped breathing, not with hatred. Their eyes remained fixed, empty. "No!" I shouted. "No! Wait!" I pressed on his chest. I tried resuscitation. I blew air into his lungs. I pressed again. Nothing. He was dead. Again. I stepped back, my body trembling, my hands covered in blood that shouldn't have been there. I picked up my cell phone. I called the call center with trembling fingers. "Central. This is Detective Hewitt. I need an ambulance." "County Route 18, kilometer 44. Hit and run victim." "No. Wait. No. He was alive, and..." "Detective Hewitt." The operator's voice sounded confused. "Sir, there is no record of any calls from you in the last 48 hours. I stopped. "What? You didn't call us? There's no open case. But I found bodies. 15 bodies. I reported them all. Silence on the other end. Sir, are you all right? Do you want me to send a patrol car?" The body had disappeared. I hung up. There was no blood. I looked back. There was no Ethan. There was nothing. Just the cold asphalt. And me. Alone. In the middle of the road. In the middle of the night. And then I understood. None of them were really there. They never were. I was seeing ghosts, or I was becoming one. I stumbled back to the patrol car. I sat in the driver's seat, my hands trembling so much I could barely hold the steering wheel. I looked in the rearview mirror. Here you go. In the back seat, Ethan Cole, sitting down, looking at me, blood dripping from his mouth. I froze it. He didn't say anything. He just stared at me, and she smiled. I screamed. I turned around. The bank was empty. I stumbled out of the car, my heart pounding in my chest. I stood there in the middle of the road, breathless, staring at the police car as if it were about to come alive. Nothing happened. But I knew what I had seen. He was there. I drove back to the police station. Not home. I needed answers. I needed something concrete, something to prove I wasn't going crazy. I arrived at 4:30 in the morning. The building was empty. Only the emergency light was flashing in the hallway. I went straight to the archives. I searched through every pedestrian accident case on County Route 18 over the last 15 years. I collected every file, every report, every photo. There were 12 archived cases. All unresolved, all within the stretch between kilometers 40 and 50, all with the same phrase repeated in the reports: driver not identified, vehicle not located, case closed due to lack of evidence. I opened each file. I looked at each photo, and I recognized the faces. All of them. These were the victims I had encountered in recent weeks. The man in the suit, the pregnant woman, the teenager, the gray-haired lady, Marcus Treadwell. They were all dead on that road. All abandoned, all forgotten. But there was something more. In one of the oldest files, I found a handwritten note in the sidebar, almost illegible. Suspicious vehicle, silver Honda Civic, license plate partially visible. Possible anonymous witness reported a car with a broken headlight speeding away. My stomach sank. 9 years ago, I was driving a silver Honda Civic. I remembered the impact, the braking, the sound of shattering glass. The right headlight had broken that night. The next day, I took the car to a mechanic in another city. I paid in cash. I didn't ask for a receipt. I replaced the headlight. I replaced the bumper. I had it repainted. And I became convinced it was precaution, maintenance, nothing more. But it wasn't. It was a cover-up. I grabbed my phone and accessed the vehicle transfer records. I looked for my old Civic. I sold it 6 months after the accident. To a buyer from out of state, below market price. Quick sale, no questions asked. I had deleted the evidence, and I had forgotten that I deleted it. I sat on the floor of the archive, surrounded by folders, photos of the dead, and reports that I myself could have written. Ethan Cole wasn't the only one. I had driven down that road hundreds of times, tired, exhausted, sleepy, driving too fast on a dark road. How many times have I almost hit someone? How many times have I actually hit something and forgotten? Human memory is a fragile thing, selective. The mind erases what it doesn't want to remember. It constructs stories. It fills in the gaps. And I had spent 9 years filling in the gaps with lies. But the dead do not forget. I got up. I picked up all the folders. I put them on my desk. If I was going to pay for what I did, it had to be done the right way. I opened my computer. I started writing a formal confession. Every detail, every memory that came back, every lie I told. I wrote for hours. When I finished, it was almost 7 in the morning. The sun was starting to come in through the window. I saved the document. I printed it. I signed it. And then I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate, wet footprints, as if someone had entered with soaking wet shoes. I looked at the door. It was locked, but I could hear it. Every step, getting closer. He stopped in front of my classroom. The doorknob turned. The door opened slowly. And there he was, Ethan Cole, soaked, blood running from his nose, eyes fixed on me. He didn't say anything. He just went in, and he closed the door behind him. I couldn't move. I was stuck in the chair, my fingers gripping the worn leather arms, staring at him. Ethan Cole stood in front of the closed door. Water dripped from his hair, forming puddles on the linoleum floor. His denim jacket was soaked and heavy. He was breathing. I could see his chest rising and falling, but there was no sound. No audible breathing, only silence. And those eyes, fixed, empty, accusing. I wrote everything down, I managed to say, my voice trembling. I confessed. Look, it's all here. I pointed to the paper on the table. My confession, signed, complete. He didn't look forward. Water ran down his shoes. It dripped onto the floor. I know it's no use, I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. I know that apologizing won't bring you back. But I'm going to pay. I'm going to hand this over. I'm going to turn myself in. Another step. He was just a few feet away from me now, close enough for me to see the details, the pale skin, the dark veins beneath the surface, the dried blood at the corners of his mouth. Please, I whispered. What do you want from me? He opened his mouth, and for the first time since it all began, I heard his voice, clear, real, as if he were alive. It's not me you need to settle scores with. I blinked. What? He pointed to the window. I got up slowly. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to run. But I couldn't. I went to the window. Outside, in the police station parking lot, there were people. To my window, stops. I recognized them all, looking up. The man in the suit, the pregnant woman, the teenager, the gray-haired lady, Marcus Treadwell, all the bodies that I had found, everyone there, standing, waiting. Oh my God, I murmured. Do you think it was just me? Ethan's voice was right behind me now, close, cold. I turned slowly. He was inches away. Do you think it was just one night? An accident? I don't understand. How many times have you closed your eyes for a second? How many times have you driven while tired? How many times have you been blind? His words hit me like punches. Memories began to explode, one after another. A woman was hitchhiking. I ignored her. It rained that night. The next day, they found her body, hypothermia, 2 kilometers past where I passed. A teenager was fixing his bicycle on the side of the road. It was nighttime. He didn't have a flashlight. I drove by quickly, very close. I heard a scream. I didn't stop. An elderly man was walking slowly, confused. I honked. I swerved. He fell into the ditch. I read about it 3 days later. Heart attack. Nobody found him in time. Each memory was a blade. Cutting. Bleeding. I didn't know. I tried to say, "Did you know?" His voice was firm now, relentless. "You always knew. You just chose to forget." I fell to my knees. The tears came, uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry." I looked at him,
I'm
at
so
his wet
sorry.
face, at his dead eyes.
It's not enough.
"So what do I do? What do you want?" Ethan knelt in front of me. He was at my height. And for the first time, I saw something beyond accusation. "You. Sad. We want you to remember. We want you to carry it with you. We want you to never forget again." He extended his hand, and he touched my forehead. Cold. So cold it burned. And then, everything came back. Every face, every moment
Every
I could have
name.
stopped, could have helped, could have stayed, and I chose to follow. I chose to protect myself. I chose to forget. I screamed, a scream that came from somewhere deep inside, where guilt lives, where remorse hides. When I opened my eyes again, Ethan was gone. The room was empty, just me, and my confession, and the weight of everything I had done. I picked up the paper, I folded it, I put it in my pocket, and I knew what I had to do. I didn't hand over the confession, not that day, because deep down, I wasn't ready yet. I was still afraid of prison, of shame, of losing everything I had built on a lie. So I put the paper in a drawer, I locked it, and I tried to move on. But you can't fool the dead. That night, I went home. I took a shower. I tried to eat. I tried to sleep. At 3:16 a.m., I woke up. I looked at the clock. I waited. 3:17. Strangely, the phone made me more nervous than if I had played it. I got up. I walked around the house. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. As if the world had been emptied and only I remained. I went to the living room window. I looked out at the street. All the street lights were out. The whole street was dark, except for one thing. In the middle of the street, standing under the full moon, Ethan Cole, looking out my window. I stepped back. My heart raced. He just stood there, waiting. I grabbed the keys, I put on a jacket, and I left. I don't know why. Maybe tiredness, maybe despair, maybe acceptance. The street was freezing. My breath formed thick clouds. I walked towards him. Ethan didn't look away. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice weary. "I already know what I did. I already remember. Isn't that enough?" He turned around. He started walking. "Hey, wait." But he continued, walking slowly. Out of the neighborhood, toward the road, I followed. I don't know how long we walked. It felt like hours, days. Time had lost its meaning. There was only the road, the moon, and him, always a few meters ahead, until we arrived. County Route 18, kilometer 44. He stopped in the middle of the road, exactly where I had first found his body. I approached slowly. "What is this? What do you want to show me?" He didn't answer. He just pointed, forward. I looked. In the middle of the road, illuminated by the moon, there was a car, a silver Honda Civic. My old car. I froze it. That's not possible. I sold that car, years ago. But there it was, right headlight intact, new bumper, as if it had never been in an accident. Ethan started walking towards the car. "No!" I screamed. "No! Please, no!" But he continued. He got into the car. He sat in the driver's seat. He put his hands on the steering wheel. And he stared at me through the windshield. Between. His voice echoed inside my head. Clear. Inevitable. I walked to the car. Each step felt like a ton. I opened the passenger door. and I went in. The interior smelled brand new. It had the same carpet, the same air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror, as if it had gone back in time. Ethan turned on the ignition. The engine roared. The headlights came on. "Where are you taking me?" "Where?" I asked, my voice trembling. He didn't answer. He just started driving, accelerating, faster and faster. The road unfolding ahead in a dark blur. I looked at him, at his wet face, at his eyes fixed on the road. And then I understood. That wasn't where he was taking me. When was it supposed to be? The car went faster. The road began to distort. Lights blurred, sounds overlapped. And suddenly, rain. It was raining heavily. The windshield wipers were working at full speed. I looked at the driver's seat. It was no longer Ethan. It was me, 9 years younger, shorter hair, deep dark circles under her eyes, coming back from a shift. I was reliving that night. "No," I whispered. "Please, don't make me see that again." But I had no choice. I watched it, like a ghost within my own past. I saw him appear at the side of the road, arm raised, soaked, desperate. Step on the brake. I saw myself hesitate. But then, I saw my eyes close. For a second, just a second, and the impact. His body hitting the hood, the glass shattering, the sudden breaking. I could see everything now, from the outside, just as it happened. I saw myself get out of the car, look at the body, panic. I saw myself pick up the cell phone, dial 911, but stop before pressing the call button. I looked around. I saw myself make the empty decision. Road, no back witnesses, to the car, no turn cameras, on the ignition, escape, and I saw Ethan lying on the cold asphalt, still breathing, still alive, watching the car drive away, alone, dying alone. I fell forward, my forehead hitting the dashboard, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry," I cried. "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." The car stopped. The engine shut off. I opened my eyes. We were back at kilometer 44, but now I looked at the driver's seat. It was empty. I staggered out of the car. Here you go. All of them. Standing by the side of the road. Ethan, Marcus, the pregnant woman, the teenager, the lady, everyone staring at me. And then, they began to disappear, one by one, like smoke in the wind, until only Ethan remained. He looked at me one last time, and he whispered, "Now it's your decision," and it disappeared. I stood there, alone in the middle of the road. The sun rising behind the wheat fields, the silver Honda Civic slowly fading away, dissolving like mist in the morning light. Everything was silent. For the first time in weeks, there were no voices, no whispers, no presence, just me, and the road, and the crushing weight of choice. Now it's your decision. I walked back home. I don't know how long it took me. Hours, maybe. It didn't matter. Each step felt like an eternity. When I arrived, I went inside. The sun was already high. I sat at the kitchen table, and I stayed there, staring at the wall, thinking. I could confess, admit what I did, go to prison, pay the price, or he could burn the paper, move on, pretend none of this happened, continue being Detective Daniel Hewitt, respected, trusted, untouchable. The hours passed. I didn't eat. I didn't drink water. I just stood there, trapped between two versions of myself, the culprit and the coward. When night fell, I picked up the confession. I read it again, every word, every detail, and then I tore it up. I threw the pieces down the sink. I lit a match. I burned everything. I watched the paper turn to ashes, rise in smoke, disappear. I convinced myself that I was doing the right thing, that there was no point in destroying my life, that Ethan was already dead, that confessing wouldn't bring him back. I convinced myself that I deserved to move on. I went to sleep, and I woke up at 3:16 a.m. I looked at the clock. I waited. 3:17. The phone rang. No, 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 no. That was over. I had seen it. I had remembered. They were gone. I answered with a trembling hand. Hello? Silence. And then the voice. Cold. Inevitable. County Route 18, kilometer 44. You need to come now. No! I shouted. It's over! I remembered! You said I just needed to remember. Silence. Older. And then, you chose to forget again. Not Ethan's. The call dropped. Deeper. I sat on the bed, trembling, sweating, my heart pounding. I didn't go. Not this time. I was going to break the cycle. I was going to resist. But the next morning, when I turned on the TV, I saw the news. Body found on County Route 18. Victim unidentified. Police are looking for witnesses. Images of the scene have surfaced. Yellow tape, police cars, forensic experts, covered with a white sheet. But I knew who it was, because I had seen him before. On subsequent nights, the phone kept ringing, and I still didn't answer, and the bodies kept turning up. But now, other police officers were finding them. Other detectives were investigating. Other people were having nightmares. I had passed on the burden, or the burden had spread. I realized something terrible. It wasn't just about me. It never was. It was about responsibility, about guilt, about what happens when you choose to forget. And the more I forgot, the more people paid. A week later, Miller called me into the office. Hewitt, we have a problem. What? That road. County Route 18. We had 7 bodies in 7 days. All unidentified, all run over, and nobody saw anything. He looked at me with that expression. It's the same road where you found all those bodies last month. Remember? I swallowed hard. I remember. I think we have a serial killer, or some kind of cult. I don't know, but I need you to investigate. You know that area better than anyone. I remained silent. He was asking me to investigate my own crimes. Hewitt, are you okay? I blinked. Yes, yes. I'll take care of it. That night, I went to the police station. I opened my drawer. The confession I had burned was there, intact, as if it had never been destroyed. I picked up the paper with trembling hands, and I understood. I couldn't run away. I couldn't forget. I couldn't tear it up. The cycle would only end when I finally accepted it. I looked out the window. Outside, in the dark street, there was someone, Ethan Cole, standing under a lamppost, looking at me. He was no longer wet. He was no longer hurt. I was just waiting. I got the confession. I left the police station. I walked over to him. I can't. I'm too much of a coward, he said, his voice breaking. And for the first time, he nodded, as if he understood. So let's try again. And everything disappeared. I woke up in the police station, alone. I looked at the clock. 3:16. No, not again. The phone rang. 3:17. I was imprisoned, trapped in a night that never ended, because I never had the courage to end it. How many times have I repeated this? I don't know anymore. I lost count of how many times I woke up at 3:16 a.m. How many times the phone rang. How many times I went to that road. How many times I saw the bodies. How many times I promised I would confess. And how many times I didn't have the courage. Time has ceased to make sense. I don't know if it's been weeks, months, years. Maybe I'm stuck in that night for an entire decade. Maybe everything that happened after that impact was just a long, cruel dream. Maybe I never really left the road. Today, if I can still call it today, I woke up again. Police station, alone, fluorescent light flickering. I looked at the clock. 3:16. I waited. 3:17. The phone rang, but this time I didn't answer immediately. I kept looking at him. The ringtone reverberating through the silence. Persistent. Inevitable. On the 10th ring, I answered. I know, he said, his voice weary. County Route 18, kilometer 44. Silence.
He himself.
And then Ethan spoke.
Why don't you finish
Not the
this?
mechanical voice.
Because I'm afraid, then, of losing everything, of being hated, of being forgotten like a monster. Do you think it's worse than this? Than being imprisoned? Than being trapped with you? I closed my eyes. You're also prisoners. Do you think we can rest while you forget? While you pretend? The call dropped. But this time, I understood. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't revenge.
For me,
It was...
for me to do
Wait.
the only thing that could free them.
They were waiting.
And to set myself free. I got up, I opened the drawer, I took out the confession, which always came back, no matter how many times I tried to destroy it. I read it again. Every word I wrote, every truth I documented. And finally, I understood that it wasn't about courage, it was about responsibility. I grabbed my keys, I put the confession in my pocket, and I left.
I went to Sergeant
But I
Miller's
didn't
house.
go on the road.
I knocked on the door. It was almost 4 a.m. He opened it, sleepy and confused. "Hewitt, what the hell? I need to show you something," he said. Now. He saw something in my face, something that made him grab the jacket without question. We got into the car. I drove in silence to County Route 18. "Hewitt, what's going on?" Miller asked. I didn't answer. I just drove. Up to kilometer 44. I stopped
I turned
the car.
off the engine.
9 years ago, I killed a man on this road, he said, his voice firm for the first time in weeks, and I ran away. Miller remained silent. Processing. Hewitt. There's a confession here, complete, signed. I pulled the paper from my pocket. I want you to testify. I want this to be official. I want this to end. Miller picked up the paper. He read it under the dashboard light. His expression changed from confusion to shock. "Oh my God, Daniel. I know what this means. I know what will happen to me. Why are you doing this now?" I looked out the window, at the empty road, at the place where Ethan had died, because I can't carry the dead alone anymore. Miller remained silent for a long moment. Then he picked up the radio. "Central, this is Sergeant Miller. I need a team on County Route 18, kilometer 44. I have a formal confession of homicide, with sadness, with disappointment, but also with respect. Sorry, Hewitt, no need," I replied. I had to stop running. We waited in silence. And then I saw, on the side of the road, Ethan Cole, still observing. But this time, he wasn't alone. They were all there, in a row, silent, watching, and one by one, they began to disappear, as it finally, and he nodded. They could rest, and it disappeared. Ethan was the last one. The police cars arrived. He looked at me one last time. They handcuffed me. They read me my rights. They put me in the back seat. As we drove away, I looked out the rear window. The road was empty, peaceful, just the asphalt under the moon. And for the first time in 9 years, I felt something akin to peace. They convicted me. Manslaughter, failure to render aid, concealment of evidence. 12 years, no parole. But I gained something I hadn't had in a long time. My career. Sleep without voices, without phone calls, without bodies staring at me, because the case was finally resolved. Not in the way I wanted, but in the way I needed to. And sometimes, late at night in my silent cell, I look into the darkness, and I give thanks, because the case was never closed, until I finally accepted that he should never have been. If you listen to the end, you're already one of us. Subscribe so you don't miss the next whisper.